Welcome, everyone, to the SoCal Car Scene Podcast, the exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your host, Dean Marash. And behind the scenes is our awesome director-producer, my son, Jay Marash. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a show. Joining us today is Sisson and Theresa Gilpatrick. But first, we need to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by our good friends at SoCal Classic Car Storage and C-Tech. Also, we want to remind you that we're now on Patreon. Patreon is a great website that supports independent podcasts like the SoCal Car Scene by helping them with fundraising via subscriptions. If you're an avid listener of these episodes, and we know you are, we humbly ask you to consider becoming a premier member to our show. In exchange for your support, you'll have access to our episodes one day before they premiere, and you'll get to see the extended interviews from our guests. Sign up today at patreon.com/the SoCal Car Scene or click on the link in the description. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our very, very special guests, Sisson and Theresa Gilpatrick. Cindy's the CEO and Theresa is the COO of GS Events, LLC, and are the founders of this elite consulting group that brings decades of marketing, operational, experiential, and branding expertise to life. Both of them and GS Events bring the passion for all things centered around the premium automotive and performance lifestyle through their client network and engaged membership. Their flagship offering, Women and Car Events, exemplifies their mission to amplify women's participation in the automotive culture. They strategically develop programs for women to participate in car events around the United States with other like-minded women. Whether you enjoy rallies, concours, auctions, restoration, the business side of collecting cars, and I do, or have always yearned to expand your skills to drive a vehicle to its fullest potential, GS Events has something for you. And without further ado, ladies, welcome to the show here at SoCal Car Scene Podcast.
Thank you, Dean. Happy to be here.
Yay. Okay. I had a few things I wanted to talk about, but now that I found out about your background, why don't you tell the audience where the two of you are at? It's so awesome.
Well, it is definitely not a virtual background. We're in the living room of Lynn St. James, 7-time IndyCar racer. She's on a plane right now, and we thought this was quite an appropriate background because it's about the spirit of the American woman.
Wow, it's more than appropriate. So do you guys house sit for famous people in cars and car racing all the time? Is this part of the fun of the new company?
We were here for some events that GS Events had planned and executed. So we're in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and Lynn was very gracious to offer her living room for this. And that is the full nose clip from her IndyCar. It is stupefying to see it in person.
It's hard to believe. You want to scroll up?
Yeah, there you go.
It's the real deal.
Well, look at how much they've changed. I mean, it strikes me that they're super narrow and long, and there's not much aero there, other than that front wing. So incredible how the design has changed.
It's interesting. And when you peek in and when they're, on the ground and you realize how close their feet and ankles are to the axle and how brave they have to be to get in there, it's a remarkable thing. She's truly one of my heroes. And this is really inspiring. It's very inspiring.
I bet it is. Well, just so fortunate to be in the company of great people and women trailblazers like that. So very cool. Thanks for having such an awesome environment to share with our audience. Hey, so congrats to both of you for launching this incredible company, GS Events. We're just so excited for you. But what was the impetus behind the company? Either one of you or both.
Sure. Thank you. We're so excited about this. It's through just one of those serendipitous moments that really great things come from. So I've been in the Ferrari Club of America for 30 years, and I spent the last 10 years as its national executive director. And I made the decision toward the end of last year that on the 10-year anniversary of my hire date, which was April 30th of this year, I was going to exit. I had climbed the hills. It was a fabulous experience, but I knew I was ready for something else. And along my journey, I had had a dream because I knew I was in a minority in the car collector world. And you have experiences, life experiences, and things come along that form ideas. And so in the last few years, I had been sketching out these thoughts, ideas. I'd let it kind of take form and shape, and I started a business plan. And on April 28, right before I exited, I had a LinkedIn connection from this person named Cindy Sisson. And she said, you know, I love reaching out to other women in the motorsports space. And would you be open to a phone call? I said, absolutely. But I have my hands full the next couple of days. Could we talk on May 1? And she said, sure. So May 1, we called each other and we're chatting. And turns out she had a client who wanted to be connected with the Ferrari Club. And I said, that's awesome, except you're 24 hours too late. I exited my job. I was very happy to make the introduction, not a problem. But I said, you know, a little bit limited now. And so we got talking and she said, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, grow up being, since I'm 58, that was pretty funny. I said, truthfully, I have a pipe dream that I really would love to create a platform for women in the automotive space to come together and enhance their skills and become full participants in the collector car industry, whatever it is they want to do. And I said, it's very big and it feels like an enormous project, but I know it could be done. And there was this silence on the phone and she said, you got to be kidding me. And she said, I've had the same dream, because Cindy's had the most extraordinary background in cars and in the automotive industry. So we shared information. We discovered that we basically had mirror images of each other's business plans and had been writing them for 2 years, but had never spoken. And so we agreed that every couple of days we would talk. We made a dedicated time every couple of days. We shared each other's business plans. We put it all together. We kept talking and talking. So in June, we formed an LLC called GS Events. We started creating the website. We started creating our programs. We started reaching out to partners and doing kind of a soft launch. And the reception to it has just been extraordinary. The minute we talk about amplifying women's voices in the automotive culture, everybody kicks in. It just resonates. And so we've had partners reach out to us from track, from auctions, from collector cars, from lifestyle spaces where they want to connect with people. And so we're very excited about this. We launched formally on September 28 and phone calls through the roof. So there you are. That's our story.
Well, it's a great story because I kind of went through a similar metamorphosis. I was doing the tech marketing activity for a good 12 years, and I had previous lives in the aerospace world. And I'm accustomed to making a hard right or a complete U-turn in my career. But I wanted to take on this entrepreneurship. And it feels like both of you got to a point in your careers where you've demonstrated your success, you've had a tremendous impact, but at some point you wanted to do something that you were passionate about, something that could make a difference. And so I totally get that. As a late life entrepreneur, a lot of people probably were looking at me going, you know nothing about running a business. And I said, no, but I've got a lot of experience, so hopefully that'll get me through. And you know what, surprisingly it does. It's very valuable. And sometimes I wonder if we're so focused, and you know, a lot of these master's programs are focused on, you know, just theory. And I think you both bring such incredible experience to the table. There's no match for that. I just feel like what you're doing is you've already got a powerhouse combination, and now it's just a matter of, you know, flawless execution. I'm not going to be surprised when you guys blow up.
Well, thank you. We both had the conversation about, if not now, when?
Yeah.
And the energy is so great. And Cindy's background is mind-blowing. We're kind of two halves of a whole. Cindy, do you want to talk about your marketing background and your absolute wheelhouse? Because she's incredible. So.
Well, what I'm so blessed with, again, is to be able to do big events that have last in perpetuity. So for example, 25 years ago, I started a Kyle Petty charity ride with a bunch of NASCAR drivers driving from San Francisco to Charlotte in 8 days, and that still exists today. And actually, I was approached by Kyle Petty to put that ride together, and I had 6 weeks, and I mapped out every potty from San Francisco to Charlotte, sold all the sponsorships, created the logo, and then about a week before the ride decided, I could do this. So I bought a motorcycle, shipped it across the country, and stood there with people like Don Tilley, who is since passed, very famous in the Harley Davidson world, and others. And my first question to Don was, how do you turn this thing on? And he freaked out. He's like, what are you talking about? I go, I've never ridden a bike in my life. And the first leg, actually, Dean, was from San Francisco to Newport Beach. And
right in my backyard here.
I know.
Up in Northern California.
So that was, quite a thrill. But, I've been so blessed to work with the likes of Jack Roush. I actually started the first marketing department for any NASCAR team, and, raised a lot of money during the heydays of NASCAR, helped launch his aftermarket business, worked at the Peterson Automotive Museum for 3 years, most recently with Terry Cargus and that whole team, which I adore. Started a couple of concours, or part of a couple of concours, like the Trump National Charlotte Concours, the Las Vegas Concours, and just been a car gal. It's funny, on my Facebook just the other day, someone had posted about the General Motors Van Nuys plant, and my dad and mom had their honeymoon. They're from New Hampton, Iowa. They came to California, and Dad worked at General Motors and retired after 40 some odd years. And I put that on my post because, I'm often asked, where does my passion come from? And I think it's because I was pretty much born with it. And then my first car was a 64 and a half Mustang. My second car was a 68 Camaro. And, all the guys at high school thought I was kind of cool because I had the jacked up car with a cool wheel. So
I think that Mustang was made in that Van Nuys plant, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of them were made here in Cali.
No, they couldn't have been, because it was a Ford, and my dad worked at the GM plant.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I think, you guys are steeped in this car culture from birth, and there is no exit from that. It's almost, people say, is it an addiction, a disease, and nature, nurture? Not quite sure. But once it gets in your blood, you can go make money, and you can go manage a career, and you can go do some other things. But for me, it's like a tractor pull, and it pulls you back in, and there's just no escape. So at some point, I had to accept my fate and started a car storage business, despite all these other career intentions. This feels exactly where I want to be, and I can tell from both of you that this is exactly where you want to be. So I'm super excited for you. I'm sure our audience is as well. Hey, but tell us a little more about GS Events. I think we've got a pretty good idea, but, give us, maybe some things that we don't know from the general introduction that I provided. Of course there's events, but what are some of the other things under the cover that you guys are launching that women and other people can take full advantage of?
Well, there are a couple of projects that are within about 7 to 10 days of launching that we're so very proud of. The first one is a partnership with a very significant media company to create a once-a-week Women in Automotive podcast, where we're going to interview a woman who has contributed or is making serious inroads in the automotive culture, and she will be featured on a 30-minute podcast every week. So we are going to really amplify women's contributions that way, and we have
Awesome.
a 3-year contract. We're so thrilled with that. And the second initiative we're doing, it's also virtual, thank you COVID, but it's turning out to be a remarkable gift, is that we are putting together a once-a-month virtual gathering for women in the automotive industry to come together. We have about 100 seats each month, and it is closed. It is a private event where women can come together no matter where they contribute in the automotive culture, and come together and talk. We have a guest speaker, we have a Q&A, and then we do breakouts where they can network and connect and discuss what's going on, come back together. And we're doing that once a month just to get everybody engaged. One thing that Cindy and I noticed is that while that women are really making inroads, it seemed fractured to us. There were different conversations going on.
Right.
Our goal is to kind of pull it all together and get everybody to recognize we're everywhere, we're not going away, we're making incredible contributions, and look at the depth and the breadth of talent and expertise and smarts there is, and then get all of us to talk together. So that's really a key driver. We're working on some proposals and some projects right now with an auction company to get more women comfortable to participate in an auction, to be treated as a full participant, a buyer or a seller, how to be prepared, how to do estate valuation, how to do collector car evaluations, what happens if the unthinkable happens and you inherit a collector car group and you don't know what to do with it, but you
Right.
want it to be safe. We're working with a really terrific driving school partner to create some incredible programs across the country to engage women to be more comfortable in their cars, to be better, safer drivers, and then to elevate the experience if they choose. So we've got all kinds of programs going all different directions.
Well, it sounds terribly exciting. I mean, oh my gosh, it feels like it's one of those things where you crack the door open and it's so comprehensive. And I just think the response, if it hasn't already been, will be terrific. And we've got to at least take an opportunity and talk about one of our sponsors right now. But, nothing gets done in my business without great battery management. And our first sponsor is just great. Are you looking for a smarter way to charge your car's battery? Our friends at C-Tech lead the way in the care and maintenance of vehicle batteries. C-Tech's unparalleled knowledge and continuous innovation means they offer high quality, reliable chargers that are effective, easy to use, and most importantly, safe for their user and their car's electric system. The quality of C-Tech's products make them the trusted company of the world's most recognizable car brands, including Audi, Bentley, Corvette, Ford, Ferrari, Maserati, Mercedes, Porsche, and numerous others. Get yours today at smartercharger.com.
Can I add to that?
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
I'm
Absolutely.
a client. I own a sweet little 2006 Porsche Cabriolet. Her name is Linda.
Linda.
And this whole year of COVID, I have been mostly in Southern California. I had a very ill mom who recently passed. And when I got back, my battery was dead. And all I do is plug in my C-Tech charger and Linda is good to go. So
Awesome. Is her name Linda? Is that right?
yeah, her
Okay.
name is Linda. There's a reason, a story. There's always a story for me, but Linda was my best friend. I'm a big golfer. I used to be the head of marketing for the Ladies Professional Golf Association. And
Awesome.
she was my weekend golf partner. And on a Thursday night near where we lived, there's this concert series, and she was walking home, and the 18-year-old was texting and killed her instantly.
Oh, no. Terrible.
So her family knew how much I liked her golf clubs. They gave me her golf clubs, and then they gave me a real sweetheart of a deal on Linda. So she'll always be with me. She's a little black convertible with tan inside, and I'm feeling blonde and sassy and like a Southern California.
What a great legacy for her, a Porsche. I mean, incredible. And you get to keep her out in the public square. This is fantastic. So, you know what? We've had a number of women guests on our program, and we love to advocate for women because we think that there's so much exciting things that are happening and that are going to happen, just like what you guys have created here. So we love the emphasis. Is it, Theresa, is your belief that many women are on the sidelines and just need some encouragement and a forum, or put it in your own words if you don't mind, for our audience?
I think I definitely noticed more and more women participating, either bringing a friend or just getting in the driver's seat and doing it, or buying their own car. Still in the minority, but more and more. I think oftentimes the platform really helps if you can bring a friend, but it's definitely still, and unfortunately, a man's world.
Okay.
So we're working on it, but all kudos to the other gender, the welcome and the open-mindedness and the absolutely what can we do together? How can we elevate all of this is
Right.
absolutely key. And we have been warmly welcomed. Do you want to talk
Yeah,
about
I
that?
want to add to that too, because this is something that Theresa and I are pretty adamant, because we don't want people to think this is about the Me Too movement. Not at all. It's not. You know, I often get asked the question, how have you been treated in this industry? I've been treated great. But but
Right.
it could be better. And it could be better. And the way that we're looking at this is the OEMs, the insurance companies, they should be heralding us, because what we're trying to do is get women to be more excited about buying a car, a new car, or a car at an auction. They just don't feel comfortable. I was at a Cars and Coffee about a month ago, Dean, right by you, there in Newport Beach. And this woman had this gorgeous Porsche. And I walked up to her, and she was dressed all cute and everything. And she kind of sadly said, I'm uncomfortable coming here because the women think I'm trying to pick up their husband. I'm like, what? And this
I
woman,
never thought of that.
yeah, she said, you kind of have to be careful because, but we don't want her to feel like that.
No, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But I think a lot of that has to do with just society as a whole. And, I don't know. I think it's kind of like racial tolerance. How do we have the awareness and the tolerance, but at the same time continue to know that it's out there, regardless if we're participating in that? So there's both that have to happen, tolerance as well as awareness. And I think for men like myself, I'm aware of it because we've been doing these podcasts. We've had a lot of great women guests. We're going to continue to be a platform for that. But it may be worse in certain areas of the country. It may be even worse in certain pockets or certain venues or certain events. But it's easy to not see it. And that's something, I think that's something that us on this side need to be aware that it exists. And maybe it's gotten better, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing that, because sometimes people do it. You see the whole depth and breadth of it. Some people are aware that they're doing it, and some people, it just trips off their tongue, or they're just forget, or they overlook, or they just don't understand or have the experience. But one goal that Cindy and I have is, and it's really key to what we're doing, we're bringing all these women together to have these immersive experiences. Well, they're not there solo. They're meeting 10, 25, 50, 100, 1,000 other women.
Right.
And the next time they go to that event, here are all these familiar faces. Here are these new people. There are all these women in business who will attend. Well, it's business networking. It's personal networking. We're elevating the entire experience. You're not just driving a car. You're driving a car with other women who are driving cars, who are buying cars, who are learning about cars, who want to judge at a concours. There's just this enormous pod of interests you could have and experience. So we'll see if we can't just broaden the conversation. That's all we keep trying.
I think you can. I think you will. One of the things I notice, and Cindy, you spent a lot of time here as well in the Southern California area, the Porsche community seems to really be super active with women. They've got a couple of organizations, Women in Porsche, Porsche Women Global. So what is it specifically about SoCal and Porsche that seems to have already started to make some great inroads into women-focused car activities and support?
Well, there's a lot of good leadership down here or in Southern California. One of them is Jennifer at the Porsche Club, Porsche driving experience in LA. Yeah, I don't know if you've met this woman or she's been.
I have not, but I've been there, and I drove an instructor pretty crazy. He's like, Dean, I thought I told you to brake earlier before the turns.
Well, and really, I have not been ingrained in the Southern California women's Porsche market. I mean, when I was at the Peterson, I was blessed to be a part of the Porsche Effect, which was their #1 exhibit, I think, well, next to the lowriders. And I know you like hot rods and lowriders too, Dean. But
I do. I love lowriders as well.
Oh, those two exhibits were hit out of the park. But one of the things I wanted to clarify too is we're not really going out and creating events, if you will. We're partnering with existing events. So if it's the Peterson Automotive and I talk to Terry Cargus and I say, hey, Terry, when are you going to do a women's event there? Let's not just have a token night where you bring in 4 women and they on the stage, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not what we want to do. We are working with some very large concours right now to create curated rallies. Now, in our invitation list, it won't say women only. It can be women and men, but we really want to have this emphasis of hey gals, it's okay, bring your car out. We're gonna make you feel really comfortable. What Theresa talked about, the auction house we're talking to, they do a really good job of doing fashion shows at their auction house. But what fashion show is not gonna turn a woman on to wanting to buy a car. I had lunch the other day with, let's just say, a very significant woman who's an executive producer of a major race. She is the executive producer for a major race series and a major auction. And she said, Cindy, when I'm in there producing the show, it's amazing how the cameramen don't know how to act. If a woman is driving, gets to the front, she can't do that. She must be cheating. And then the auction house is, they can't
Hilarious.
a woodman would stand up with an auction paddle.
With a paddle, yeah.
They don't even know what to do with it. And that's where we want to change the norm a little bit too.
Yeah, anyway, like, you know, I think it's great that you point that again. It goes back to this awareness thing where A, we may not know we're doing it. B, we're not aware that it's out there and it's prevalent. So again, I think we've got to work a lot harder on this side while you're working harder on that side. But right now, we need to say a huge thank you to our other sponsor, which is really near and dear to our hearts, of course. This podcast is also brought to you by SoCal Classic Car Storage. Our facilities here in the lovely city of Laguna Hills offer secure white glove vehicle storage and extensive concierge services. In addition to storage, our expert sales staff offers consignment services for those looking to sell their cars. For more information, come visit us in Laguna Hills or find us at SoCalCarStorage.com or Facebook.com/SoCalCarStorage. So one of the things that I want to talk about today, because I love this idea of a mashup, Adobe Wines makes me think of Mark Green and his great show, Cars Yeah. So I've been a guest on there. Mark's been a guest on our show. You know what I think of Mark as, I don't know, king of car podcasting. I can't think of anybody more prolific, anybody more crazy from a commitment standpoint. And I think he's a legend. But I love what he's doing with Adobe Wines, and I know you folks are also have a partnership with Adobe Wines. So, in Petaluma, where Jason has a lot of background because he used to live up there. So very cool. Tell us a little bit about Adobe Wines, how they fit into this picture.
So Adobe Road Wines, which is owned by Kevin Buckler, who is also a very famous race car driver with the Racers Group. He's won over 7 championships, 4 24 hours at Daytona. He's won Le Mans, an amazing pedigree in racing. And Lynn St. James absolutely loves his wine. So I don't know if you're aware, but Lynn was in an accident up in Indy racing about a year ago. And I had to have surgery in May. And she called me one day and just said, Cindy, I'm in so much pain. I can't get in the car, but I need some wine. So I called Kevin and I said, Kevin, Lynn, you know she loves your wine. Can we send her some wine? Because I can't fly from North Carolina, go to the Total Wine store and bring the wine over to her house. So he was so gracious and sent her wine. And he invited Lynn and I to go on his first virtual wine call, which was celebrating the Long Beach Grand Prix, which he had won the year before, his team did. And Lynn and I were on it. We're like, wow, this is a good idea. And then the next week he did one with a Ferrari dealership and a gentleman from Ferrari, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. Wow, that's a good idea. So Lynn said, hey, Kevin, Cindy knows everybody in the automotive motorsport space. You should look at hiring her to connect dots for you. And if you can see a lot of my business cards, it's called Super Connector. So people need something, they call it the Super Connector. So I went up to Petaluma, met with Kevin, toured the shop and his race shop, and was like, I think I could do this. So all of a sudden, I started connecting with the likes of the Porsche Club of America. We've done a ton of virtual wine tastings with them. We did one last Friday with the amazing Brian Redman and Patrick Long. Haggerty, we have done, I can't even count how many virtual wine tastings. And one of my favorites was with Bruce Meyer, Bruce Canepa,
Oh my gosh.
Jay Leno was on the call.
No.
It was really fun and great camaraderie. Theresa just hosted one last week with Ferrari Club of Texas and Haggerty. That same day, we did our first international virtual wine tasting with Haggerty and all their top clients in the UK with racer James Wood right before he got on the track and qualified on the pole at Goodwood.
Wow.
So,
Well, listen, I just got to say, I'm not a big advocate of drinking and driving. I'm not saying I never did that when I was young, but I'm a big advocate of drinking in Zoom meetings. I think that's a great combination. I'm even thinking it's appropriate during the business hours, but I could be wrong about that.
We don't advocate drinking and driving, but through all this, Mark Green and Theresa and I have become very, 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 very good friends. And Mark, we're at Adobe Road's an advertiser. You know, you got to pay the bills, and
Sure.
he's been the biggest advocate, and he does a great job of hosting. We did one that was really fun. I'm sure you've heard of Deb Pollock with Drive Toward a Cure.
Yep.
And she brought on Vanessa Williams.
No kidding.
Yeah, who's a car enthusiast. And that's been our biggest one to date. We probably had almost 200 people on that one. And when I say 200 people, usually you have 2 per tile. So that was like 100 people times 2. And we piloted our first charity event with that one. Again, Jennifer from Porsche Experience gave us a driving experience. That went for, gosh,
A couple $1,000s,
yeah,
I think. Yeah.
really good. And then Dwight Knowlton with Carpe Diem, the artist, he gave us a beautiful Porsche drawing, and we raised almost $15,000 that night for charity.
That's great.
Well, the next time Mark Green invites me to the Zoom Adobe Road Winery meeting mashup, I will be attending, so I will not be declining. I don't want to miss this opportunity. It sounds great. So, and Mark better get Super Connector on his business card as well, because I think he's a Super Connector too. So I was checking out the Instagram page. You know, Jason will tell you I'm not a social media maven, but I do know how to go out and find the Instagram. So let everybody know that I may be a knuckle dragger on social media, but I can do a few things. And I saw you guys, and particularly Cindy, you were hanging out with Richard Petty, taking pictures with that legend. So was that a GS event, and can I be slightly jealous that you were hanging out with him?
This is a really special story. I am a very dear friend of the Petty organization. Done a lot for their charity. They have the Victory Junction Gang Camp. I actually created the logo for that. As I said earlier, I've done the Kyle Petty charity ride. I put together his 80th birthday at the Peterson. We did a partnership with the museum. We had Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace, the Allisons,
Wow.
Mike Milton, and roasted Mr. Petty, and the likes of Peter Mullen and Bruce and everybody were in the stands. We raised about $500,000 that night for the dual foundations. But I was up at Laguna Seca for the Historics this year, and we gave out a bottle of Adobe Road Redline to the 100 and some odd participants. And this one man and woman just befriended me, and we started talking. And I said, I live in Mooresville, North Carolina. And he said, oh, I have Richard Petty's last lap race car. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so he told me the story of how he got it. And quickly he found it in a book. He drove to Dallas, went to buy the car. The guy said the car's at a friend's down the street. They went down there, and the guy who was holding the car for him, his son he couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair. And the gentleman actually builds prosthetics. So he told the gentleman, look, I will build a set of prosthetics for your son, and I will make him walk again. And the guy who owned the Richard Petty car was so moved. He said, whatever it costs to build the prosthetics, I will sell the Richard Petty car to you. So I was so moved by that. I called Mr. Petty or the Pettys, and asked if he could meet them one day. So they took me up on it, and they flew out last Sunday, and we met up in, Randleman, North Carolina at the Petty Garage, and gave them a private tour, and they got to meet and greet Mr. Petty, and it was just wonderful.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. I'm a big Dan Gurney fan. I met him at the Peterson Museum when they did that special exhibit on all of his cars. And, just being around the legends, it's such a great, great life. Not just doesn't feel like work. And I'm so excited that you've had the opportunity, both as an individual personally and as a professional. But tell us about some upcoming events for GS events. I mean, just sounds like you've already had a lot of great ones, but what's on the calendar near term?
Oh, near term, we've got a celebratory party for Lynn in development in conjunction with Amelia Island that we're working on. We're creating some rallies for downstream, and we're looking at a very significant set of events in Carmel during Car Week in conjunction with Carmel's Concours on the Avenue. Doug Friedman is an extraordinary supporter of what GS Events is all about, and he has offered his platform as a base for us to create some women's events. And through the generosity of his and Jeannie's big heart, we're going to be able to do some really terrific GS events, women's events around his Carmel's Concours on the Avenue. And we're so thrilled and appreciative. So we've got lots in the pipeline. If we sat here and listed them for you, it would be mind-boggling. So we're excited.
Yeah, you'd never get on that plane today. Well, that's great. So all's clear in 2021.
Our week in Monterey.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
They're planning as if it happened today, what would they do? And then
Okay.
as things change moment by moment, as we all know, we have to adjust.
Yeah, we had Wade Kawasaki on. You know, he's the CEO of Coker Tires and Legendary Companies, and we were grilling him about SEMA. Is it going to happen? This was like 4 months ago. Wade, what do you know? And he's like, the appropriate response is, just like you said, hey, we're planning, we're doing, you know, we're hoping, we're hopeful. And then when SEMA finally closed down, there was a big gasp across the collector hobby. You know, same thing, the gasp was loud and clear. I think there was serious depression when they shut down Car Week this year. I don't know that many of us have recovered, to be honest.
Not even came out from Pebble. It was a sad day, but you know, you better safe than sorry. And quite frankly, Cindy and I are absolutely positive that 2021, we'd rather be positive. So we're going to say that 2021 is going to be a fabulous year, and everyone who cares about cars is going to be so happy to see each other. So
And the great news is 2020 is almost over, right? So that's in the rear view. Are you kidding? 2021.
The other thing we always hear too is, well, let's wait till after the election, you know, so we're you know, hopefully all the stars will be aligning in the right way at some point, but
Right.
we're just going to keep moving forward. We purposely, when we created the company, it is a cute little story. You know, we opened our joint bank account, we had our LLC, and we were going to do an event. Where? At Laguna Seca. And we scheduled a meeting with a guy named Gordon McCall. So we're in Gordon's garage, and I walk in and she's standing there, and it's like, whoa. That was the first time we ever met in person. And Gordon's like, what? You guys have your own company and you never met before? Like, no, never.
So were you in his condo complex?
Yeah, it was really awesome. He's a great man.
Wow, what an incredible facility. I've got to get up there and see that. Gordon, what they're accomplishing there is, you know, it's just next level. It's for your serious enthusiasts, but if you're addicted and you got this problem, I think you sacrifice everything, including the kids and the grandchildren, to make that happen.
So Dean, the other thing too is we're really blessed with is a little globalness in our company too. Have you ever heard of Magneto magazine or seen that?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it's a very high-end magazine. I think they advertised with Mark Green on Cars Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I've heard of the magazine. It's supposed to be incredible.
Yeah, well, actually, what we did is a wine tasting as part of their with the Concours virtual. We had Wayne Carini, McKeel Haggerty, a bunch of big dogs. And if you bought the 2 bottles of wine, you got a free subscription to Magneto. And so Theresa and I are working very, very closely with Jeff Love and Dave Lillywhite. And we are their US based agency of record. So the theory is, it is a very well done publication. 50% of their subscribers are here in the United States. So we're helping them with finding a potential printing person here, a distribution person, and then we'll be handling their events and their advertising in their magazine. So if you want a copy, we'd be happy to send it to you, but it's really, really, really a well done publication.
That was me raising my hand like a little school kid. Please. Yes, I'd love that. You in the back of the class, please lower your hand.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love
yeah,
it.
that's one of the things that Theresa and I are amassing too, is we call them partners.
Yeah.
So what you're going to start to see is more and more companies that want to reach this audience, they become a partner on our partner page.
Makes complete sense. Absolutely. Hey, so we talked a little bit about COVID-19, and the real question that's on a lot of people's mind is, you guys seem a little, either you know something that the rest of us don't know, starting a company, kind of in the tail end of this COVID-19 stuff, or you're just a little crazy. So what's been the reaction? I mean, as a late life entrepreneur, I'm so excited for you. I don't see anything but upside, but what's been the response?
Kind of like what you just very neatly summarized, which is you did what? And then when we explain, I mean, quite frankly, we looked at 2020 as a building year. And little did we know that we would be able to pivot this virtual platform and just use it to create relationships and expand on what we're doing. And as you well know, all rocks roll downhill. So all these partners and conversations and whatnot began basically the genesis of everything else that we're working on. And so 2021 will probably be a little bit of a mashup, virtual and live, as things come back online. And yes, that's wishful, hopeful thinking on my part. But, right now we're doing virtual and everyone is safe and everybody's home doing their thing. And it's a building year for us. So the reaction's been interesting, but beneficial, really.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's kind of like these auction companies. They've learned to really depend and use the virtual auction format as more a basis for the majority of their sales, right? And it's been surprisingly productive, whether we're talking to Muffy Bennett at Leak Auctions or whether we're talking about Meekum or Barrett Jackson. I think they've discovered that they had to sharpen their sword and get better at that, and that the world is really moving that direction anyway. So I think all of this, if we have our rose-colored glasses on, could be very positive for the industry and certainly for GS events. Cindy, there's something I really am excited about. I know very little about that you're involved in, and it's the Circuit of the Northwest that's about to launch in Bremerton, Washington. I don't know the timing, but just so you know, I was born in Tacoma, Washington. We used to have a great family vacation home up in the lovely Gig Harbor, a little place called Horsehead Bay. So I'm excited about this for a variety of reasons, but tell us about this incredible property and some of the car madness that's planned for that.
Well, it is going to be awesome. And it's a great location. There's such a need up in that marketplace. And Brian Nilsson, who's the founder of the Circuit of the Northwest, we've been friends for 20 some odd years. He grew up with Chad Little, the racer, actually was one of his members of his crew and moved to North Carolina. And I was good friends with Chad Little. So when our little babies were growing up for forever, we would take our crew to Steamboat Springs and ski every single year. And so recently, another foundation that Theresa had mentioned is the Tech Force Foundation. We are very passionate about the future, obviously, and that's our foundation of choice. And Jennifer Maher, who's the CEO, is doing a press announcement to announce a partnership with America's Automotive Trust in the Circuit of the Northwest. And somehow my name came up, and the next thing I know, I'm an advisor to the circuit and awesome. Dragged in. And our goal with Brian and Joel Cohen and his team is we want to make it a premier place for the Ferrari clubs and the Porsche clubs and the BMW clubs to look at this as a great place to do their annual club events. So that's what we're working on with Brian, but it's very well thought out. It's got great potential.
Well, what I've seen, and I guess a lot of it is just virtual or, graphical representation, but man, it looks like a tremendous playground for us car crazy people. And I think that's pretty much everybody, but if you can get the car clubs involved, I think that's the key. Hey, so one thing I want to talk a little bit more about from a GS perspective is if I'm interested in purchasing an investment grade car, a lot of our customers here at SoCal Classic Car Storage have very, investment worthy cars, and they're always looking to add to their collection. So do you provide a service to help facilitate that, either start a collection or to grow and nurture a collection?
Well, that's a great question, because what we're finding is as more and more, I'm going to call it women, find out who we are, they're calling us to ask them to find them a car. And these are some very powerful women. And the comment is, we trust you. So what we're doing is aggregating our trusted friends. We have a particular woman that we're very fond of, named Caroline Cassini, and her dad is Judge Joe Cassini, who's very famous in the automotive business. Here's a woman, she's 29 years old. She was the first woman to graduate from the Art Institute of San Francisco restoration class, only woman. And this woman, you walk by a car, she can tell you everything about that car. So I'm kind of mentoring her right now, and just love her passion and her enthusiasm. So there's that side of the business. The other side of the business is we're getting a lot of women who their husband and them have a collection. I have one in particular in a certain area. They have 30 cars. She's 63, he's 83. And they both came to me and they said, Cindy, we've got these 30 cars. She says, I don't know one thing about any of these cars. And if he were to pass away today, I wouldn't know what to do with those 30 cars. So we have this, we call it the Red Book right now, but we want to create this book where we would bring in a trusted evaluator, not only an evaluator, an appraiser, to come in and sit down with a husband and wife, go through the appraisal, and then be able to provide them the tools so when he passes, they have a trusted source to go on to.
Yeah. That's a great service. We consign vehicles here as part of our business, and oftentimes we're in car clubs, and typically a man is collecting cars, and then the surviving spouse is stuck with a bunch of cars she knows little to nothing about, and then it's just a very delicate but important part of the car collecting hobby. On advising on whether to keep those cars or how to liquidate those cars. So we get involved in that, and we're excited that you're offering those services and that we're able to talk about that, right? I mean, because a lot of that can be uncomfortable to have those conversations. I think it's great. So
we don't want anybody to be left behind, and we don't want bad things to happen, like you inherit a car collection and you don't know where the titles are, you don't know where the paperwork is, you don't know where to turn, and you're emotionally distressed. Right. And that's just very, very difficult. So if we can create a comprehensive suite of really trusted partners and support someone through a tough time, or just support them to understand what it is they have. You look at someone like an Ann Lee, who inherited a collection and now is as knowledgeable as anybody and manages it so beautifully. That to me is a raging success story out of something really terrible. So
can I add something? So this is going to sound really like what you
okay.
say that. But I was very blessed to help a woman plan her husband's funeral. And instead of just a normal funeral, burial, blah, 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 we did it at CODA. And so the casket was in the lead car, the family's cars were behind it, and then over 300 cars showed up, and we did a victory lap around, we called it the victory lap of this person's name, around CODA. And then we had videos of just wonderful support people up on the big jumbotrons at CODA. We had the name of the person on the scoring board. And then we served his favorite hot dogs. And we've served some of the Adobe Road Shift wine, and we made these beautiful glasses with the person's face on it that said the victory lap. So I think we might have a new business now. It's doing funerals for people too.
Wait a minute. What I heard is hot dogs and wine. I didn't know that was a pairing, but I guess, it's COVID-19 year. Anything goes.
Oh, Dean, it was such a celebration of this person's life, and it was so joyous and happy. And he knew about this. He was, part of the process before he passed, but it gave everybody such a great happiness and closure that I could see this being done with other folks. Just different way to celebrate a life.
Yeah, that's awesome. We do celebration of lives here once in a while as well here at our facility, and when people are integral to the car scene and that's their life, That's the best way to celebrate their life, is to focus on their involvement in the car scene. One story that I'll share with you, and I'll be brief, is there's other ways that this happens too when we lose somebody who's been collecting cars. One of our customers, actually a lady and her 2 kids came in, and now they're storing 3 of her husband's cars, and they were built, restored to the nines by a German automobile fabricator, but they're American cars. They're a Cameo truck, 1956 Cameo truck. It's a 1963 Falcon and a beautiful Ferrari 3.2 Mondial. But the reason why I bring them up is it's not the widow that's showing the interest. These kids that are in their late 20s and early 30s are learning how to drive the cars, how to care for the cars. And so we try to do whatever we can to help them get comfortable and encourage them to drive and enjoy, because until you're out there using the cars and enjoying the cars, they seem a little bit scary, I think, for those that really haven't participated. So we see so many derivatives of what you're talking about, but I feel like all of us have a responsibility to keep people and get people involved in this great world of car collecting.
Mm-hmm. It's a huge responsibility, but I think we can do it.
I think we can.
We can. I know we can.
Oh.
Hey, so, one thing that for me personally is, this business that I'm in is a late life, as we mentioned before we got started, entrepreneurship opportunity to start my business. And for me, it's I oftentimes use the word passion, but I think maybe a better way to phrase it or characterize it is that it's a lifestyle business for me and a lifestyle business for my customers. So I enjoy both aspects of that. I've been in the corporate world, and those are rigorous, demanding, unrelenting jobs, and they're well compensated. But I'm at a point in life where I'm looking for a business to be successful, but at the same time provide me a balance and lifestyle. Is that where you both are at with GS? Is that a fair characterization, or would you characterize it differently?
You hit the nail on the head for me. I mean, the funny thing is for me, and I'm going to do a little confession, so put your little, collar on. But the joke is, as much as I'm in the car business, I know nothing about cars. And so when I tell my story is I helped launch the Jack Roush aftermarket business, and we were at SEMA, and the hood was up on the car, and these 2 men came up and they said, "So how big's that engine, Cindy?" And I looked at it and I said, "Oh, I don't know, 3 feet by 4 feet." Jack was mortified, but yeah. I had a celebration of life last week, and I was going to post it on Facebook. I never did, but I put my air in my tires for the first time. I was free at last, because I was so intimidated by doing it. So now I'm getting a little bit of confidence, but the
Spark plugs next week, right?
Not going to be, no, that won't happen. Okay, but right. The big thing for me is I'm in the automotive business because I love the people. It's all about the people. As I shared earlier, my mother just passed in August. My son is going to be a hopeful Dodger player here, trying out next month. And
hey, go Dodgers. Sorry, that was.
And I'm 60. And what I want to do for the rest of my life is have fun. And if it's not fun, you're gone, buddy.
You're out.
You're out.
Well, the Dodgers had fun last night, and so we're excited about this incredible development.
Yeah.
Sorry, Theresa, we're kind of.
No, we love she likes the Dodgers.
I grew up with the Dodgers. I love it.
So you're used to the pain and the suffering since '88. My son Jay, who's behind the scenes, and we were unable to watch the complete games. It's been, it's emotionally challenging for us. I think we're needing some form of serious, help. But anyway, we're excited. Hey, so if people want to learn more about this incredible company, GS Events, on the internet, on social media, where would we send them to get more information or to reach out to either one of you?
Well, thank you, Dean. First of all, thank you for your support and for reaching out to us for this conversation. That is a huge gift, and we so respect you and what you do. And thank you for your approach to this today also, because it's been a great conversation. So please ask people to go to gsevents.live, and they will learn about Cindy and me and our programs and how to reach out to us there. And you'll find that exact same handle, GS Events Live, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So please come find us. We'd love to talk to you.
Do you want a real behind the scenes story of the name of the company?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? What comes to mind for me is Lexus, because I used to have a GS 300. But I'm betting there's a better story than that.
Oh, definitely. So it's Gilpatrick, Sisson, GS, not Girl Scouts. But what happened was when Theresa approached me, she was just dead set in calling it Women, Cars, and Events. So we started trying to figure out our URL and everything, and we went to register for that one. It was like $7,500, and we're like, but then as we dug deeper, and this is the real green room kind of stuff, is if you Google Women, Cars, and Events, there are a bunch of scantily clad ladies on Ferraris and
No
other
kidding.
cars. And we didn't think that kind of represented what we like or what we
That's a
wanted.
little off brand, is it?
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
off brand. So that's how we ended up with it was going to be Women in Cars and Events, but we ended up with Gilpatrick Sisson versus Sisson Gilpatrick, SGGS, whatever.
Yeah, we flipped a coin. It's all good.
And you won.
It's a bad team.
And for those of you watching us today, don't forget all our episodes are on our YouTube channel, The SoCal Car Scene. Remember, it's all separate words, where you can see videos of our awesome guests and yours truly. Please watch, follow, and most importantly, subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you prefer to listen to them, please go to all of your favorite podcast platforms like Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, Google Play, and the SoCal Car Storage /media page. Thanks so much for listening and watching, and thanks again.